Episode spoilers for Tuesday, July 8th, 2025. Promise that fans of the bold and the beautiful will witness a fresh wave of violence and heartache at the venerable halls of the Art Institute where so many Spencer and Forrester dreams have been forged. Word has it that Liam Spencer, driven by the shadow of his recent brain tumor diagnosis and the fierce imperative to shield his family, will race toward the art school in a panic, only to arrive at a scene more horrific than any catwalk showdown. Unbeknownst to him, two more gunshots will ring out before the night is done, sending shockwaves through every life tethered to the Forrester legacy. Among those on the receiving end of the carnage, Steffi Forrester Finnegan will stand frozen in sheer horror, her carefully built world crumbling once again under the weight of betrayal and bloodshed. It all begins when Luna Nozawa, still reeling from Sheila Carter Sharp's unexpected act of mercy in saving her niece's life during the Beach House massacre, finds herself gripping the cold barrel of a semi-automatic in the stately lobby of the art school. Sheila, the former villain now determined to live up to her deacon husband's faith in her, steps forward to wrest the gun away. In that moment, the gray-haired matriarch of chaos recognizes the deep anguish roiling within Luna. She knows what it means to be cast out, to be feared by everyone you once hurt, but she also knows that Luna's only choices are prison or death. With a desperate ferocity born of true remorse, Sheila lunges at the weapon, aiming to save both Luna's life and Luna's soul. As they struggle, gunmetal light flashes under the gallery's crystal chandelier, and Sheila's hand slips on the grip. A sharp report splits the air, sending Luna reeling. But the bullet does not strike the young woman it was meant to protect. Instead, Sheila staggers backward, her lips parting in a gasp of not only pain but dawning betrayal. The crowd that has gathered to admire Forrester designs recoils in shock as Sheila's elegant form crumples to the marble floor, the silver gun clattering just out of reach. Luna stares down in horror at the grandmother who had risked everything for her redemption, realizing in that moment that she has taken the one life that had truly stood by her. Steffi Forrester Finnegan, rushing forward from the entrance with Finn at her side, stands aghast at the unspeakable violence unfolding before her. Rumors had swirled all week that Sheila and Luna were conspiring to exact revenge on the Forresters for every slight, every betrayal. But no one had suspected that Sheila's sacrifice would be so literal, so absolute. As Luna collapses beside her grandmother, her hands slick with blood and tears streaming down her cheeks, Steffi's own anguish manifests in a strangled cry. She falls to her knees, unable to halt the relentless blur of grief and guilt. Yet through the tears, she sees something unexpected. Sheila, once the architect of more heartbreaks than one could count, is now pleading with her eyes, begging for forgiveness in the only way she can, through the ultimate act of contrition. But Steffi, scarred by betrayal and loss, cannot bring herself to reciprocate. She had never forgotten how Sheila shattered her family's trust, how she nearly destroyed her marriage, and how she betrayed the friendship that once bound her to Luna. Even as Sheila's life ebbs away, Steffi cannot offer solace. Instead, she glances up at Finn, her voice choked with sorrow and anger. Sheila chose this path. Finn, whose role now straddles the line between healer and judge, places a trembling hand upon Steffi's shoulder, unsure whether to run to the ER or stand vigil at the sight of betrayal's darkest hour. No sooner has the first shot echoed through the crisp gallery air than a second explosion of violence occurs near the sculpture wing. A stunned gallery patron, an unassuming art student who had simply come to present her thesis, collapses as a stray round tears through a display case of Forrester sketches. The young woman's chalk-white face flickers with shock before she crumples to the floor, leaving a ruined canvas and a pool of red on the polished concrete. Security guards and paramedics converge in a tide of uniforms and medical bags, but the damage is done. Another innocent life cut short by the machinations of a vendetta that spiraled out of control. Amid the chaos, whispers fly that Hope Logan herself may be implicated, the obvious suspect in light of her bitter feud with Steffi over the Logan Forrester fashion alliance. Social media buzzes with conspiracy theories. Did Hope manipulate Luna in her grief? Did she supply the weapon? Was this another gambit to destroy Steffi in the worst way possible? Before anyone can piece together the scattering clues, the third gunshot shatters the charged silence. Liam Spencer, having sprinted up the marble staircase at the far end of the gallery, throws open the double doors leading to the rooftop studio where Luna and Sheila had met secretly. With every ounce of strength drained from his recent chemotherapy sessions, he crashes into the room, eyes blazing with protective fury. But in his desperation, he fails to notice the gun still clutched in Luna's trembling hand. The muzzle flashes, and Liam collapses to one knee as the bullet rips through his shoulder, bone and sinew, protesting in a cry of agony. He staggers, blood blossoming across his white shirt, but he refuses to fall. With a final push, he drives forward, toppling Luna and wrenching the weapon free with a guttural snarl. For a moment, time stands still. Liam's chest heaves with pain and relief as authorities swarm the studio, guns drawn and sirens wailing below. But as Liam's vision darkens at the edges, one thought floods his mind. He has spent his illness learning what truly matters, and here, amid the carnage, it is the safety of those he loves that defines his fight to survive. By the time the episode reaches its cliffhanger finale, 3 characters lie gravely wounded or dead, and the gallery is stained with grief that no amount of perfume or silk can mask. Sheila Carter Sharp's fate hangs by a thread, though her years of scheming would not easily ward off an injury this severe. Her time might finally have come to an end, and with it, the last chance for her to atone with Steffi and Finn. The art student victim remains unconscious, the third casualty of a blood feud that nobody saw coming, forcing the community to reckon with the fragility of life when vengeance goes unchecked. And Liam Spencer, his face pale but defiant, is rushed to the emergency ward amid a flurry of beeping monitors and hushed prayers. Bill Spencer arrives in a fury, demanding answers and sharpening old rivalries, while Hope Logan watches in horror as the fallout of her past alliances, and perhaps her present betrayals, unleashes consequences beyond any apology or boardroom maneuver. Tuesday's episode will leave viewers breathless, a macabre symphony of gunfire and regret set against the beauty of Forrester artistry, a brutal reminder that even the most gilded worlds can be shattered in an instant. Will Sheila survive long enough to confess her deepest secret and seek true redemption? Can Liam overcome his injury and the looming threat of another tumor recurrence to protect his family once more? Will the third victim awaken, and who will bear the weight of what happened when the bullets flew? As the credits roll, the final image will linger. Steffi, her face a mosaic of tears and steel, clutching Liam's hand in the hospital corridor, determined to fight for her husband, her child, and the fragile hope that love can prevail even in the wake of unspeakable violence. Fans will be left clamoring for answers, counting the seconds to the next installment, and sharing their theories on who masterminded the chaos that turned an art school into a crime scene, and which beloved characters' secrets might erupt next in this endlessly dramatic saga. In the tense days that follow the shocking shooting at the beach house, word spreads quickly through the hallowed halls of Forrester Creations and the luxurious corridors of Spencer Publications that Bill Spencer, once the ruthless architect of power and influence in Los Angeles' elite circles, is now standing on the brink of collapse at his son's hospital bedside. As the calendar turns to the week of July 7th through July 11th, viewers of The Bold and the Beautiful will witness no fewer than 3 characters felled by gunfire, and among them, Liam Spencer, the once indomitable son of Bill, now vulnerable and gasping for every breath as he fights to survive after trying to shield Steffi Forrester from yet another bullet. It is an irony that will not be lost on Bill, who has just endured the unimaginable horror of learning that Luna Nozawa, the young woman he once championed and pardoned, has turned against his own blood, shooting his son in a moment of volatile madness. Throughout the unfolding drama, Bill will be racked with guilt, his conscience aflame with the knowledge that his hand in Luna's release from prison set this horrible chain of events in motion. From the moment he hears the words, "Liam Spencer has been shot," Bill's world tilts on its axis. He had believed in redemption, had believed that granting Luna a second chance might heal old wounds and restore her to a life of promise. Instead, that act of mercy has blown open a fresh wound, one that threatens to consume his entire family. As Liam's condition is stabilized in emergency surgery, his body wounded, his life hanging by a thread, Bill is left to pace the sterile corridors outside the operating theater, haunted by visions of his son bleeding on the floor, haunted by memories of the phone call that shattered his heart. Doctors rush past him, their expressions grim but determined, and each passing second feels like an eternity as Bill prays for news, the emptiness inside him growing with every echoing footstep. He thinks of the bullet ripping through Liam's shoulder, of the moment when his son, with the courage that Bill himself once wielded like a sword, threw himself in front of Steffi to save her life, sacrificing his own safety without a second thought. Now, Bill realizes he must bear the repercussions of his own choices. In the midst of this turmoil, Bill finds himself confronting an even harsher truth, that everyone, including his own family, has the right to be furious with him. The board members of Spencer Publications whisper that he gambled with lives when he persuaded the governor to pardon Luna. The fashion world speculates that his influence, once considered untouchable, has morphed into a curse. Bill acknowledges this openly in a rare moment of vulnerability. He stands before a group of allies, Ridge Forrester, Brooke Logan, and Finn Finnegan, his voice trembling as he admits that his desire for a grand gesture of compassion blinded him to the danger that Luna still posed. He shares that in his darkest moment, he feels anger not just from those around him, but also at himself for failing to foresee the betrayal. And yet, even as he steels himself to accept the righteous fury of his peers, Bill clamps onto one only thought: he must see Liam, must stand at his side and bear witness to the son he loves fighting for every heartbeat. When the news finally arrives that Liam has emerged from surgery, his condition still critical but stable enough to allow visitors, Bill's relief is tempered by tears that he cannot contain. He steps into the pale green hospital room where machines hum and monitors flicker, and there on the narrow bed lies the man he raised, his chest rising and falling in a shallow rhythm. Bill's knees buckle as he crosses to the bedside, gripping the rails with a white-knuckled intensity, and his tears fall freely as he scoops Liam's hand in his own. In a ragged whisper, Bill pours out his remorse, for the pardon that unleashed tragedy, for the moment he failed to protect his own flesh and blood from harm. He begs his son to stay with him, to wake from the haze of pain and anesthesia so they can be a family once more, knowing that Liam's brain tumor diagnosis, recently revealed, inoperable and looming like a storm cloud over every hopeful plan, makes every moment more precious and precarious than ever before. Bill's sobs echo in the quiet room as he clings to the life in front of him, vowing that if he can only hold on, he will spend every waking hour making amends for the chaos he set loose. Yet, even as Bill's anguish plays out in tender scenes of fatherly devotion, new shadows creep into the drama. Behind the polished veneer of Grace Buckingham's calm professionalism, subtle hints emerge that all is not as it seems. Grace, the young doctor entrusted with Liam's post-operative care, displays a fierce determination to protect her patient from harm, but faint traces of unease flicker across her eyes whenever she believes no one is watching. Unbeknownst to Bill or Finn, Grace's phone has been pinging with encrypted messages from an unknown source. A series of ominous alerts suggesting someone is monitoring her every move. As she administers painkillers and anti-inflammatories, her hand trembles just enough to catch the attention of a diligent nurse, who later mentions to Finn that the dosage Grace logged in the chart did not match the amount actually given to Liam. Finn, whose trust in Grace had always been rock solid, now feels the first prickle of doubt. Is she acting in Liam's best interest, or is there some hidden agenda tied to her ex-husband Reese Buckingham's shadowy past, which involved a devastating gambling addiction and a scandalous adoption plot that nearly ripped a child from the Spencer family's arms? Memories of the illegal adoption scheme surface like ghosts in the hospital's antiseptic corridors. How Reese, desperate and deluded, orchestrated a plan that led everyone to believe baby Beth Spencer was dead, only for the innocent infant to be spirited away and raised by Steffi and Finn under false pretenses. Steffi's tears had flowed then as they flow now, but this time the betrayal cuts closer to her heart, because the stability she believed she had found in Grace's capable hands may be an illusion. Could Grace be complicit in some new wrongdoing, using Liam's vulnerable condition to manipulate outcomes that serve her own ends? The prospect chills Finn to the bone, and he resolves to pull the records himself, to wonder whether the inoperable tumor diagnosis he delivered to Liam was entirely accurate, or whether Grace, with her steadfast loyalty to Reese, could have manipulated the MRI reports to lend urgency to a plan still in motion. As whispers of Grace's late-night phone calls and furtive text messages begin to circulate among hospital staff, Bill's grief-stricken focus on Liam is jolted by a creeping sense of dread, now that the bullets have stopped flying. A more insidious threat may be stalking the halls. Amid these swirling tensions, the week builds toward yet another crescendo of emotion and suspense. By Friday's episode, Bill and Finn, once adversaries, now united in their fear for Liam's life, will corner Grace in the supply room, demanding answers about the discrepancies in Liam's medication chart. Grace, her composure fracturing under the weight of their accusations, will break down and confess that she has been receiving cryptic texts from an anonymous number ever since she agreed to help Reese in his misguided efforts to preserve his family's legacy. She will plead with Bill and Finn to understand that her heart was in the right place, that she had wanted only to secure the best possible outcome for Liam by ensuring he complied with an experimental treatment protocol that Reese had insisted upon, a protocol still under review by the medical board. Her confession will reverberate through the hospital like a gunshot all its own, for it implies that Liam's very prognosis and the truth about his brain tumor may have been manipulated from the start. As dawn breaks on the weekend, the Spencer-Forrester alliance will find itself at a crossroads, Bill, having confessed his own culpability in freeing Luna only to unleash a tragic shooting spree, now confronts the unsettling reality that Liam's fate may not rest solely in the surgeon's hands, but also in the hands of those whose loyalty is shadowed by past deceptions. Steffi, who spent so many nights by Liam's side reliving the trauma of the beach house, will now face the agonizing prospect of discovering the truth behind Grace's subterfuge and what it means for the marriage she and Finn have built on a foundation of trust. Ridge, ever the old guard of the family, will stand sentinel at Liam's door, torn between his fierce protectiveness and his grudging respect for Bill, whose tears have humanized him in ways no boardroom confrontation ever could. And Finn, whose dual roles as surgeon and son-in-law have never been more fraught, will grapple with the knowledge that medicine, like fashion, thrives on precision, and that one misstep, one hidden motive, can unravel everything in its path. By the time the closing credits roll on the week of July 7th to July 11th, 2025, the bold and the beautiful will have delivered a spellbinding tapestry of sorrow and suspicion. 3 bullets fired, 3 lives irrevocably altered, and a father's broken heart laid bare for all to see. Bill Spencer, who once wore ruthlessness like armor, will stand exposed at his son's bedside, tears marking a man finally unmasked by the weight of responsibility. And as the camera pans over the sterile hospital corridors echoing with unanswered questions, viewers will be left to wonder whether the greatest danger to the Spencer Forrester legacy lies not in the simple pull of a trigger, but in the tangled motives and hidden alliances that flourish in the shadows, in the trust we place in those we love most, and the secrets we bury when we believe we are doing right. The next chapter promises not only raw emotion at a father's confession of guilt, but also a high-stakes reckoning with the very nature of loyalty, redemption, and the thin line between compassion and catastrophe. Tune in, because in this world, forgiveness may be the hardest bullet to dodge of all.